One of the toughest but yet most important things you can do as far as being a student athlete, in order to be the very best student athlete you can be, is to learn from the mistakes of those that came before you, to avoid some of the potholes that they fell into. That, by far, if you get that, I ain't got to worry about you. You're going to be straight. If you want to do it, you're going to have to deflate your ego. You're going to have to humble yourself and realize that any mistake, and I do mean any mistake they've made, you could make. I don't care how holy you are. I don't care how lucky you feel like, what family you came from, how smart you are, how good looking you are. Any mistake that someone else has made before you, you can make that same mistake. But what I see oftentimes, and I'm guilty of it as well, is we start to justify things. We start to justify doing the same things, the same steps they took to get to become an alcoholic, to lose their scholarship, to get the girl pregnant, to get kicked out of school, to get kicked off the team. The same steps. We're doing the same steps, but expecting that we won't get that same end result because I'm just bail. That's why. I could do the same things and it's just not gonna happen to me. Today I'm gonna give you 6 potholes that student athletes often fall into when they get in college. I'm gonna do 2 things though. Not only am I gonna identify the pothole, I'm actually going to give you a tidbit of how to get out of that pothole if you're already in there because you're a college student athlete. Hoop loud. Yes, indeed, Big Brother Bear here to give you all that you want and what you need. And before I get into the first pothole, I want to cordially invite you to subscribe to the channel. I put out information every week, at least one time a week. On helping student athletes both in their sport and out, both college and in high school. I'm sure through the library of things that we've been able to upload, you'll find something for you. Give me some ideas of what you want to see in the future, and I'll see you next video. But that first pothole, I would say, not being equipped academically. I don't want to generalize, okay? I can only speak for me, okay? So I don't want to generalize all student athletes. I'm not trying to offend anyone, at least not on purpose. But when I was in high school and in middle school, school was easy. It was easy just to get just enough to get by. It was easy. And then when I started playing basketball in high school, my 9th grade summer going to my 10th grade year, I started to realize that there was a lot of teachers that wanted to help me out. Right? They would, if I was just quiet, if I just sat back in the back of class and I didn't bother anybody, I could still pass that class. All right. But they felt like they were helping me, and I felt like they were helping me at the time, but they were hurting me in the long run. Because at the end of the day, now I'm still not reading, right? Because I didn't read my real first book until I was a junior in college. So as far as being literate, I couldn't read well. Math was horrible. So all these things were setting me up to have a rough time when I went to college. And I noticed that a lot of my teammates were in that same boat. They were used to being coddled in high school and middle school because they had a talent, because they had a skill set, and they had some teachers that really rock with them and it was going to help them out. So when you get in college, you realize that there may not be a lot of teachers that even care about student athletes, that even, that there may be some teachers that are tougher on student athletes because there are so many student athletes before them that screwed them over, that tried to get over on them. So now they're even tougher. So in college, for me, the way that I got out of that pothole is finally figuring out how I study. And I say it on the channel all the time. You have to figure out how you study to be as most efficient as possible. I was nowhere in the world being a college student when I actually became a college student athlete. Nowhere in the world. As far as reading, as far as comprehension, as far as math, as far as anything other than dealing with the basketball, I should not have been there, period. In fact, I showed up at campus, they should have been throwing rocks at me like, we don't want any of this dumbness to get off on anybody else. We need to get you away. But as it would have, I finally figured out what worked for me, and then I bridged that gap. I bridged that gap to get the bachelor's. I bridged that gap to get a master's. But it all came down to me identifying that, there's a deficit here. There's a deficit here as far as where everyone else is and as far as where I am. For me, failing 6th grade into 8th grade, socially promoted from the 8th grade to the 9th grade, special education classes, I was not supposed to go to college at all. Wasn't supposed to be there at all. But because of basketball, I was afforded the opportunity to get a start, just to try. And what I realized that helped me get out of this pothole is just really identifying the best way for me to study. That's what helped me out academically. And for some of you that are already in that position, try to figure out what's the best way you study. For me, because I didn't read my first real book until a junior in college, reading over the chapter was not going to suffice. That was not going to work for me. I had to write this stuff out over and over again. I had to rote memorization. I had to speak with others that are studying it. Like I had to meet with the doggone professor afterwards. I had to do a lot of other things, a lot of other groundwork so I can bridge that gap because I wasn't there academically. And if that's you, you have to figure out what that looks like for you. Maybe you are a better reader than I was. Maybe you can just read it over and over again and be fine with it. Read it twice and be fine with it. But you have to identify the deficit that you're in and really design your study habits, design your plan of attack to that. Don't try to be like everyone else, right? Because I can remember when they used to have study parties and they wanted everybody go into one room, or we rent out one side of the library, close the door, we got music playing, and it was a study party. Wasn't no studying getting done. For them, they could have absorbed the information, but for me, I was starting from ground zero when I left there. I didn't know anything when I left the doggone library because that's just not how I study. So figure out how you study and cater your efforts to that. Number two, I would say, another pothole that student athletes fall into is when they get to college, really understanding that there's a good chance you may not be the most talented or the most skilled on your team. In high school, it's easy to get gassed up and say, you know what, I'm the best because I'm the most talented. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm faster. But when you're in college, I don't give a doggone if it's junior college, NAIA, Division I, Division II, Division III. It does not make a difference. You are now competing against people that are around the country and sometimes around the world. And sometimes you may be a phenomenal talent and you may be the best on your team, but oftentimes, the majority of the times, you are not. What you do after that is going to dictate everything. Are you a person that starts soaking in your feelings and you start backbiting and start crying and start complaining and I can't make it and this is not, are you second guessing everything? Or do you anchor yourself in some truth and say, okay, what do I need to do to get past this? And that's what I would tell you. Listen, when I came on in college, I redshirted my first year and I walked on, okay? The only reason I got that shot is because I had a guy, his name was Chris Anderson. He went to the University of Wyoming, 6'8". He went to the same high school I went to. The only reason I got my shot is because my high school coach knew the college coach at the school at Eastern Utah, and they gave me a shot. They said, hey, he works hard, give him a shot, let him pay the first year. Redshirt him. If it works, then it works. Great. And I took that and I ran with it. Okay, that's the only way I got my shot. But in that situation, I realized that I'm not on par with these guys that are coming out of Seattle, coming out of Portland, coming out of doggone Jersey, coming out of Tech. Like I'm not on like these guys. Whoo! Thank goodness I redshirted. But the thing I did to get myself out of that pothole, and if you're in this pothole now, what you should do is you got to put in the time, dude. You got to put in time. Again, you got to do some type of self-inventory of what are the areas that you lack. Is it rebounding? Is it in the weight room? Is it you're not big enough? You're just getting thrown around in the post? Is it because your shot is broke? What are those things are? What are those things that you need? And then I will cross-reference that to whatever the coach needs, right? It's no use for you to be saying, okay, I'm not good at shooting threes, so I'm just going to go and I'm going to put in 300 three-point shots every day, if that's not what the coach wants you to do, all right? You need to play the role that your team wants you to play and not the role that your ego wants you to play. So I will make sure I do those things, and I will make sure I'll build out my practice schedule, much like we talked about with studying academically. I will build out my practice schedule to really speak to those deficits that I have in my game and also what my team needs me to do to fit the role moving forward. I will have that conversation with my coach. Number three, another classic pothole that people fall into is the pothole of accountability. Listen, this is the first time in your life. Typically, this is the first time in your life where you cannot blame your mom or dad of why you missed the bus, or why you're late to class, or why you don't have your lunch money, or why you're not on time for practice. Like you can't, ain't none of that. Ain't none of that. It's on you. And some individuals, they don't make that adjustment. They do not make that adjustment. And it costs them a lot. Sometimes it costs them scholarships. Sometimes it costs them eligibility. It costs them a lot. So that's a big thing, to be able to put on your big man draws or big girl draws or whatever and realize that it's going to be on you. It's going to be on you to make sure that you're there on time, that you have some sense of accountability, because if you're not, Please believe me, there are tons of people that would love to have the opportunity to have a jersey on to represent their school. There's a tons of individuals that there are tons of people that would love to be in your position. How you can get yourself out of that rut, if you're already in that rut, is start associating yourself with other people that are high standard people as it relates to that, right? So don't be hanging around other people that always are late. That's not gonna look good for you, okay? You wanna pick up habits of people that are doing better than you. Of course, setting alarms and making sure I have accountability pieces along the way, but surround yourself with other people that are doing things that you wanna do. And then crazy thing what happens, you start adopting some of those traits that they have and you'll start doing a lot better than you were beforehand. Don't function like you're on an island. Try to build a team around you that's gonna be conducive to you getting to where you wanna go. Four, and that gets me into my next one. Another pothole that people fall into is picking the wrong friends. This is tough, because again, you can't blame it on your mom, you can't blame it on your dad, you can't blame it on your neighborhood. This is on you. You pick your friends. And it's easy just to pick the friends that you hoop with. I get it. It's the wrong mentality to have, because sometimes the people that you hoop with are the biggest doggone, watch your words, Bill. Some of the times the people that you hoop with are the people that have the most issues as it relates to substance abuse, as it relates to not taking care of their classwork, as it relates to a lot of things. And I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying all student athletes, but I can just speak to my teammates. Some of my friends that were teammates, they had the biggest issues with that. So picking your friends is by far one of the biggest things that holds a lot of people back. Because sometimes you feel indebted to keep the same friends you had in high school, or the same friends you had in your junior college, or the same friends you had in your hometown. And that's not something you have to do. You have to start looking at people from wings and weight. Is this relationship going to be my wings and carry me higher, or is it going to be my weight and pull me down? It's going to be more weight I have to carry. I heard a motivational speaker, Les Brown, one of my favorite motivational speakers. If you don't know who that is, Google him, YouTube him. By far one of my favorites. But he says that when two people go off on a walk, he says two things are happening. One person dictates the pace, the other person has to keep up with that pace. So the question as it relates to your friends are concerned, what pace are they having you keep up with? What pace? What pace do you have to keep up with? And is it worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze as it relates to that pace is concerned, right? So they can have a pace of like substance abuse, and you feel left out if you're not doing the same things that they're doing as far as substance abuse. Is that worth it? Is that pace worth it? Or you could be around some friends that their pace is, hey, look, dude, we take care of our stuff in the class. Like, we don't play around. Hey, dude, we make sure we get adequate sleep. We make sure we get up extra shots in the gym. We make sure, we on this weightlift game, right? We making sure we're getting protein and creatine, and we making sure we're doing what we can do to actually be the very best student athlete we can be. We make sure we're staying up and studying. We're making sure that we hold each other accountable. If that's the pace you're keeping up with, then you'll be fine. But if that's not the pace you're keeping up with, and it's something that's going to be counterproductive, something that's not going to help you towards your goal, then what are we doing? 5, my next one is not willing to ask for help, number 1. And then number 2 within that 5 is doing something with the information. There are tons of people that make lots of money off the premise of you not asking a question. Credit card companies are notorious for this crap, right? You're green, you're young, right? Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Let me go ahead and sell this joker a dream right now, because they too cool to ask a question. Let me just go ahead and make a profit, right? And sometimes universities could be like that as well, okay? In the sense of no one's going to beg you to ask them a question. If you don't understand, it's your job to ask. Some of my videos I talked about this before. It's kind of like going to a restaurant and getting all these daggone suggestions from everybody. Oh, you should try the caviar. Oh, you should try this, or you should try that. Make sure you try this. Make sure you try that. And all these people are at your table giving you helpful hints of what you need to be doing, and it's all good. It's all in good spirit. They want you to win. Great. But at the end of the day, when it's time to pay that bill, you're paying that bill. They're not paying. All them people tend to leave, right? They leave when it comes to the bill. When it's time to when it's time to write that check, when it's time to slide that card, give them your debit card. It's going to be your debit card. You have to live with the decision. So if you have to live with the decisions, then I might as well know how all this stuff works. No question is a dumb question when you're asking about stuff like, whether it be scholarship dollars and how it works out, whether it be meal plans and how it works out. How does housing work? Where does this dollar come from? What does that called? Pell grants and financial aid. Like, you need to be able to speak the language as much as possible, because at the end of the day, you're writing a check at the end. You swipe your card at the end. They can give you suggestions. I think you should take this class. You should drop that class. Listen, it's all fine and good. Great. I'm glad you gave me your advice. But at the end of the day, it's going to be up to me. I have to put my initials at the end of this document, because once I leave college, once I graduate college, let me correct myself. Once I graduate college and I come back 5 years, 10 years from that, and I got some little ones, I'm married. Listen, I'm going to have to be able to call on what I've learned in college, whether it be just the degree that I have or the context that I have. I'm going to have to be able to call upon that. And if I can't, because I've majored in some bull crap, like wash your hands with soap, something that kept me eligible, not something that was going to feed my family in the long run, that's on me. If I allowed them to coerce me into taking out this doggone high interest loan because, I don't know, they said it was going to be a good idea, but I didn't understand the implications, that's on me. That's on no one but me. It's nobody's job to look out for me like it's my job to look out for me. They can help. They can give me some suggestions. Yeah, Bill, you should try this. You should eat that. But hey, it's going to listen, man, it's me. I'm paying the bill. I'm paying the bill at the end. So if I'm paying the bill at the end, then I have a say so. And my last one kind of goes with that one. Number 6 kind of goes with what I just said previously, number 5. And that is speaking up. You got to speak up, man. You have got to speak up. And I think it's tough because you're young, you're impressionable. If you were raised right, you got good manners, you have good manners. Like, I get it. And if you're from the South, it's even tougher, because we come from a land of yes, sir, no, ma'am, yes, ma'am, all that. We want to be respectful. But hear me when I say this. Being respectful is one thing. But speaking, you can speak up and be respectful as well. Don't let anybody talk over you to the point where they're trying to sun you. Like, you're like, well, I know better, so just listen to what I have to say. Nah, player. I'm not just going to listen to what you're going to have to say just because you're older than me. Because at the end of the day, what I say earlier, at the end of the day, who's going to be paying the bill? You're going to be paying the bill, right? If you're going to be paying the bill, then I'm going to have to say so. I can say it politely. I can tagline yes, sir, and no, ma'am, and all the nice little fixings that you like. I will do that for you. But for me, I have got to understand this process. For me, I have got to voice my opinion on these things. For me, I can do it respectfully. Maybe I don't call you out in front of the team. That's cool. We can do it in the office, just me and you, but we're going to have this conversation. But there's a regret that I have about college is that I didn't speak up enough. I didn't speak up enough as it relates to my coaches. I didn't speak up enough as it relates to my professors. I didn't even speak up enough as it relates to, like, my teammates. If you can be, that's a leader. If you can be, anybody can be a leader when they're older, right? They could, but I think it's easier. The toughest thing is when you are of the age of your peers. The toughest thing is when you're of the age of everyone that you're leading. So by you being 18, 19 years old and being able to be a leader amongst your peers, that's big. And it speaks volumes, because a lot of people don't do it. They shy away from it. They don't know how to deal with verbal confrontation. So confrontation, to confront, that's all it is. You're just confronting an issue. That's it. It don't have to be hostile. It don't have to be mean. You don't have to cuss anybody out. But being able to be comfortable in your own skin, like, hey, man, when you treating on a drill, that's hurting all of us. That's hurting all of our chances of winning, right? All right, hey, man, when you coming back every Friday and you drunk and we got to take care of you, like, that's hurting our chances. We have a game on Saturday. Having those conversations, being able to speak up in a way that's respectful, nothing wrong with that, be respectful, but not wavering, being very direct, being matter of fact, being very blunt, and like, I'm not wavering on this. Being able to speak up, because guess what? At the end of the day, this is your journey as well. Don't be a passenger, this is your car. Like, you're driving this thing just as much as anybody else, and making sure that you have a say-so. So listen, I put out information every week helping student athletes. What I need you to do is subscribe to the channel. The majority of y'all, let me tell you something. The majority of you are not subscribed. 70% of you are not subscribed. Okay? You're not subscribed. The least you can do, you don't watch this video, the least you can do is hit that subscribe button. The least you can do is leave a pleasant comment. Not just a pleasant comment. A lot of y'all be talking about first on my comments, and you said instantly when I put up the video, and I know you didn't watch the whole doggone video. Come on, man, watch the video. So as always, whether on the court, off, in the classroom, or out, happy holidays to you and your family. Hope y'all stay safe, healthy, and graduate at the top of your class. Hoop loudy. I feel like I started to sweat up on this mug. Golly.